The Predators prospects have come into rookie camp with some lofty personal goals. We're going to tell you about some of those, and we're going to share with you what Kallin Lind has been doing getting up at 2 a.m. this offseason. All that's coming up on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this Friday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to say, hey, y'all, and an oh, yes, it's Friday to any first-time listeners, to our everydayers, and of course, special shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders. We love talking Predators hockey with you, and we love that we get to spend a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, you know I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Rookie camp has finally kicked off. The rookie showcase is right around the corner starting today. On today's show, we're going to hear from a couple of the future Predators potential players, including newest goalie acquisition Magnus Chrona and defenseman Andrew Gibson. We're also going to get some insider information on what in the world Kallin Lind is doing in the middle of the night. Before we dive into all of that very interesting discussion, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. So, Emma, we did a rookie camp preview talking about some of the players we are most excited to get a good look at. And coincidentally, those were some of the players that we got a chance to talk to right away. Wanted to kick it off talking about Magnus Chrona because I think people were very interested to get a first look at him in rookie camp. First impression of Magnus Chrona, dude's giant. Ginormous.
Big dude.
Big dude. I think I tweeted out he's like 3 Kallin Linds packed into one.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, really 6'6". He says he's 6'6". There's
on a good day, he says.
On a good day, he's 6'6". In pads, he is built like a giant Fred Flintstone. He is just huge. Really good look at him. Of course, you know, we're going to see him at some point over the weekend in the showcase as well. What I loved best about the conversation that we got to have with Magnus Chrona was just talking about connecting with the opportunities and the people in the Nashville system. He talked about getting to talk with Mitch Korn. He talked about meeting Pekka Rinne. He talked about hearing different goaltending perspectives. And I don't want to make more of this than it is, but that just seems like such a different vibe from maybe the vibe that was put out with maybe how a younger goaltender who exited the system seemed to want to embrace the opportunity. Emma, did I say that diplomatically?
You did. Well done. Because I had the same thought, but I was like, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill here, and let's not draw connections that maybe don't even exist. But, not reporting any kind of facts or news here, but if we're just reporting on the vibes were good. And the vibes were, in fact, very different from the vibes put off by the young goaltender who Crona replaced in the Predators system. Just you could really tell just from talking to him. I mean, and this kid's been through a lot. He is, he played 4 years at the University of Denver. He won a national championship there. He played in the ECHL. He played in the AHL. He played a few games in the NHL. And he's done it all in a pretty short amount of time. But you could still get the sense, at least I could, from talking with him, that he just had this desire, this thirst for knowledge. It was just this desire to soak it all in, to learn as much as he can. And, to me, that comes across as a player who's very coachable,
Yes.
and the kind of guy that you want to have in your system.
I agree absolutely with what you're saying. There really, as we got a chance to talk to him, there really is a vibe of there is a great opportunity here, and I am hungry to hear from these people. I am hungry to learn from Mitch Korn. And, he talked about Pekka Rinne, getting to meet Pekka as well, and just the opportunities for goaltenders here. And again, not a slight against a player or any other organization's goaltending system, but there really is kind of a unique situation here for Magnus Chrona. And it was great to see his enthusiasm. As you said, the vibes were really, really good from him. Want to play a little clip of him talking about the opportunity he has here in this goaltending system with people like Mitch Korn and Pekka Rinne. This is what Magnus Chrona had to say.
Yeah, I have. They were pretty much right on it. Pretty much 10 minutes after it happened, I got to talk to them real quick and met Pekka this morning. Seems like a great group, especially with all the other goalies. Got to meet them as well. So I'm excited to get working with all of them. The first thing I noticed about them is their love for the game. Everything is about hockey, and it's always nice to see or meet new people. That's how you kind of can see how big the perspective is and how big the goalie world is. And it's kind of hard from the outside until you meet all these new individuals that all have different perspectives on the game and how it should be played. But it's all fun and games, like how you can hear from Pekka, who's played a long time in two different eras, and then Korn, who has pretty much coached a lot of great goalies and brought out a lot of great goalies. And it's just all fun sitting around with them. Like even after the ice, we were out there for probably 25 minutes just talking about goalie stuff. So.
Those of us waiting to talk to Magnus Chrona can agree that he was out on the ice for about 25 minutes after practice. But a lot of conversation we got to see with he and Mitch Korn talking yesterday. The height difference, something to behold. Mitch Korn tends to be a little bit more fun size than ginormous Magnus Chrona is. But I love what he says there about just learning from different perspectives. And I think Nashville is an interesting place for somebody who learns that way, because you have UC Saros, who is not your prototypical large goaltender. And of course, Crona's game and Saros's game is going to be a little bit different, based on a number of factors, but size being one of them. But having access to Pekka, who, like he said, this is a guy who played in some very different eras of hockey. Mitch Korn, Scott Wedgwood has a really interesting resume, has a unique skill set in that pop in and out of the lineup. And that is a skill set as well. So a lot of good opportunity, I think, here for Crona. And it was really good to see his enthusiasm for the situation that he's in.
Yeah, for sure. It is funny you mentioned the height difference. I'm pretty sure at one point they were next to each other. Crona was like doubled over and he was still taller than Mitch Korn, who was standing straight up. But I think it really is, I've been very fortunate. I've had the chance to talk at length with, with Benny Vanderklok, with Pekka Rinne, with Jason Barron, the goaltending coach in Milwaukee. And it was interesting to me that Crona's first, his first impression of those guys was their love for the game, because it's so true. I think it's, maybe goalies who have come up in that kind of system, for example, a former possible goalie in the system may not really have as much of an appreciation for how unique and how special this group is. This, as we called it when I was with the Preds, the Department of Goaltending Excellence. I'm sure they still call it that. And I think, again, as I mentioned, Crona's had the benefit of experience in a lot of different places, a lot of different levels, a lot of different coaches. And so I think that means a lot coming from him, that, compared to all the different kinds of coaching and different kinds of situations he's been in, that even he recognizes, like, oh, these guys they're on it, and they just care. You can really tell just from talking to them how much these guys care, not just about hockey and about goaltending, but they care about the individual, and they want
Yes.
to, they really want to make great goalies, but they want to make great people. And I think that goes hand in hand, and it's just really evident. So it's nice to see at least at this point that Crona has, a recognition and an appreciation for that.
Agreed. Also love that he talked about when he met Pekka Rinne, that was meeting an idol, that this was a goaltender that he idolized growing up, which is so funny to me because Pekka Rinne is so humble on a cellular level. I can't imagine somebody saying that to Pekka. I would die to know what his response would be because I just
Oh,
still,
thank you. That will be
I
it.
still, even with a statue in his jersey in the rafters, I still don't know that Pekka Rinne gets it.
Just
Bless.
the consummate Pekka moment, and I know I've brought it up on the show before, but it's just too good, is the fact that he once had to ask me for directions on how to get somewhere inside Bridgestone Arena, the building that has a statue of him out front. I
That
was
is
like,
a
"Oh my
great
gosh,
moment.
Pekka never changed." I love that man.
Yeah,
Just
he's good stuff.
he
He's good
is.
stuff. Coming up, we're going to talk about another Predators prospect that Emma and I have had our eye on. We're going to hear from Andrew Gibson. We are also going to give you some insight into what Kallin Lind has been doing in the middle of the night, y'all. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Emma, there was another player we were pretty excited to get another look at. Saw him at Dev Camp, really stood out. And again, I would say Andrew Gibson, just in the short period we've seen him at rookie camp, this is another player that I think really stands out as someone to keep an eye on. Only 19 years old, which I have to tell you, when I hear that, it is surprising to me in talking with him and watching him on the ice. And I want to real quick play a clip from him before we get started, because when we got a chance to sit and talk with Andrew Gibson, he was very clear about his personal goal for the season. This is what he had to say.
Yeah, my goal is to get a regular season game in. It's been a goal of mine to play in the NHL, and a lot of people say it's tough to make it as a 19-year-old, but people do it, and that's my main goal. And I'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen, but that just will drive me to work even harder for next season. Working on my offensive ability, my patience in the offensive zone, and my touches with the puck. I feel honored that they, to see how much they gave up for me, and like I said at development camp, I just want to prove them right and show them that I'm worth that much.
Andrew Gibson came right out and he said the quiet part out loud, and I love him for it.
Like, go off, King. Yeah, just speak it into existence,
Put it out there. Say the thing.
manifest it for yourself. Why
Yep.
not?
Yeah, we talked about that with Steven Stamkos,
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly. Just come out and say, we want to win the Stanley Cup. Well, Andrew Gibson says the quiet part out loud. I want to play in an NHL game this year.
Yeah, because he knows, he's aware that he is not eligible to go to the AHL yet. So he's not getting out of juniors for this year unless he makes the NHL roster. Now, just being just being the wet blanket for a second, I think we can say that's unlikely. It's not
Mhm.
impossible, but it's improbable. And that's less of a commentary on him and more of a commentary on the state of the Predators roster right now and all the, the guys who are ahead of him. But that being said, another thing that he did say, it wasn't in that clip, but he talked about how he, if he does end up going back to juniors for his final season, he was going to be expected to take on a bigger leadership role, which to me, I can just see it. He seems like
Yes.
such a leader, like a lead by example guy, but
Mhm.
also a guy who's going to just rally the troops. And, it just seems like, I know we said this, I think I said this on the last show. He looks like a pro. He looks like a pro out there. I mean, it was something I couldn't quite put my finger on it just watching him at dev camp or at rookie camp. Well, dev camp too, but at rookie camp this week, that he looked different. It was like he was just
There's a
another level.
level. Yes.
It wasn't skill. It wasn't, because all these players who are at rookie camp are obviously very skilled, but it was just a poise that he had to him, that goes back to your point about, you're like, this kid's only 19. Like, wow.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because we talk about him kind of being, him and Tanner Molendyk specifically, because they're in the same draft class, kind of being the next generation of, star defensemen for the Nashville Predators after, Roman Josi, for example, and Matthias Ekholm. Sorry, had to bring it up. But I think that, they kind of look at these two guys as like the next generation. Yes, on defense, but also just as leaders of this team. And I think
Right.
that, Andrew Gibson, especially, I was so impressed with him at dev camp, similarly impressed so far at rookie camp, that he just seems to be one of those guys like Roman Josi. He just gets it. He gets it on
Mhm.
the ice, off the ice. He understands what it means to be a pro. And I think that's huge for, a guy that you're looking at to potentially be a future face of the franchise.
He absolutely has a maturity to him, but seems very comfortable in his own skin. And I'm with you. You watch him on the ice and you're like, my gosh, he is 19 years old. You sit and talk to him and you have that same, my gosh, he is 19 years old. It's really an interesting thing. And it's not that, we're rolling in, a bunch of immature, yahoos, the rest of them, but there is just a level to Andrew Gibson on and off the ice that's very hard to pinpoint, but very easy to identify. It's very
Yeah.
easy to see.
Yep.
And I love him putting it out there. It is not an easy road for a 19-year-old to get an NHL game. And like you said, this is not somebody that can be in Milwaukee. He'll go back to juniors, but put it out there. Say the quiet part out loud and say, I'm going to be disappointed if I don't get it. This is not just somebody who's got a pipe dream. This is somebody who's got a goal and who is working towards it. And I think that's really admirable to see the way that he is going about this whole entire process. Definitely somebody want to get, a good look at in these rookie showcase games. He has played a lot of time with Tanner Molendyk, in some drills. We saw them together earlier at dev camp as well. And I think, man, is that a glimpse into potential future? Uh, if it is, I'm here for that. It's a
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a pairing worth watching. We also got to hear from Zachary L'Heureux, talked about his season in Milwaukee, and in the preview show talked about, he really peaked at the right time for Milwaukee and showed up big time in the postseason. I thought it was funny when he came in, Emma, and just kind of got started talking. He was like, well, I'm one of the older guys at rookie camp. Like,
It's
read
kind of
the room,
funny.
Zachary.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of funny because he kind of took a question that I was going to ask by saying that, because I was like, man, you're kind of one of the elder statesmen here now, because I remember my first Preds rookie camp was in 2022 and Zach L'Heureux was there. And it's like,
Yes.
it's crazy. None of the guys from then are still, that was like Luke Evangelista and, guys that are not, aren't there now. And so it's like, oh yeah, wow, Zach L'Heureux. It's just, he's been around for a while. He's one of those guys that you think should be older than he
Yes.
actually is.
Yeah.
But yeah, then when he's like, yeah, I'm the older guy. And I was like, okay, first of all, everybody's birth year on this roster begins with a 2. So lower your voice when you speak to me, okay?
Zip it.
There's something so ironic about the fact that rookie camp opened on 9/11 and the majority of the players on that ice were not alive when
Just crazy.
9/11 happened. That's crazy.
That's so crazy to me. I do wonder, as we look at Zachary L'Heureux, one of the things, and look, this is no secret, Zachary L'Heureux, penalty minutes, plays with an edge, sometimes crosses the line. I'm curious to see how he does in the rookie showcase, because again, this is an opportunity, and L'Heureux was upfront about, like, I am here to show it all. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to put it all out there. What does put it all out there look like for Zach L'Heureux in a game situation where, these players know they're being evaluated. They know that this is their window to make a statement. And so that's one of the things I'm very curious about when his turn comes to play in one of these games is, how is he going to do? When we had Carl Taylor on, we had asked him about Yaroslav Askarov and his kind of unconventional play. And he talked about 98% of the time he's going to be great. You're going to get burned on the 2%. And you just you don't want to overcorrect. And so I'm curious if he takes that same approach with Zachary L'Heureux, and just sort of the edge that he plays with. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see L'Heureux in a more of a game situation, looking to make another impression and another step.
Yeah, because you got to remember too, these rookies, a lot of these, from the other organizations, if they've played in the AHL or even in juniors, they know who he is.
Oh, they know him.
He's got a reputation. And I think about, like, again, I know I brought this up before, last year's rookie showcase when Kallin Lind got into a fight and I asked him about what happened. And he's like, yeah, I played against the guy, and called him a name I won't repeat. But I think that it's kind of like, oh yeah, so this is all, like, a lot of this stuff is like, this has been brewing for a while. This is not like just limited to what's happening on the ice at that moment. So he does kind of have a target on his back. And I think to some degree he always will, just because he does have that reputation. I think the hope after talking to Scott Nickel, the Preds assistant GM last offseason, was that, Zach getting up to the AHL, getting with a different group of players than the same juniors players he's been playing against for the last 3 years was, they were hoping that was going to benefit him. So maybe he wouldn't have as much of the target on his back. I think to a degree it did. It's, not saying that it was a totally clean slate, totally fresh start for him.
Right. I would agree with that.
But you saw a certain level, like a level of improvement. At least you get up to the AHL level, second hardest league in the world. You get to a point, there's kind of that raised expectations of you as a pro. And I think that, is kind of for everyone there. So I think that there's obviously, like you said, still definitely room for improvement. But I don't think, like, anyone who is expecting him to turn into a Boy Scout his first season in the AHL, come on.
No, not on the ice. I will say off the ice, such a delightful young man. I would not necessarily put the person that we talk to off the ice with the person who plays the way he does on the ice.
Yeah, you would never guess it.
Very different person. But that is something I think we need to kind of keep our eye on coming up in the rookie showcase. Do want to talk about a couple other players that we got to hear from. Of course, Emma and I are here for all the Ozzy Wiesblat insider stories. And friends, Kallin Lind, never not delightful. Let us in on what he's been doing in the middle of the night in the offseason. And I'm not 100% sure you're going to believe it. We're going to talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Look, we are all driven by the search to be better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree. Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, Emma, we got to hear from Ozzy Wiesbatt today. And those of you who are regular listeners know not only are we very interested in seeing his game, this is a player that the Predators have kept their eyes on. He was brought to Milwaukee and then officially contract traded over this summer. This is a player with a lot of potential. This is also a player with some of the most interesting backstory you ever heard. Got to hear from him. And one of the things that stood out in the conversation with Ozzy Wiesblat today is he just really talks about hard work. And a lot of people focus on, this particular standout aspect of their game. And Ozzy is really just about doing the work in every area all the time on the ice. And that's really what he said his focus is. I'm just here to work hard. You got to love that.
It's such a good outlook to have, especially for someone so young. And again, I hate that it sounds like I'm hating on a certain former Predators prospect, and I'm really not, but
we love him, y'all, but just the situation is,
it has come up in that context before, that where it's like the younger generation tends to want instant gratification, and I want to be the best, and I want to be the best right now. Just give me it. And I think that it's, you don't just stumble upon greatness, as much as it might look that way to the outside. Or from the outside, I think it's, it's the result of hard work, and you do the right things, you will be rewarded. And, again, that's not to say that if I went out and skated every day that I would make the Predators roster, but it means I will improve my skating and I will get better. And, it's about surrounding yourself with good people and good practices and just doing things the right way, learning how to do things the right way. So it was nice to see Ozzy again as another guy who kind of seems to just get it.
Yes. Yes. And he talked too about, this was work, not just for him on the ice, but, he was very transparent and said, look, I got here with a lot of help from a lot of people. I have tons of family support, but also there were people around him that supported him in his hockey journey. And I think that he really feels the weight of people have invested in me. And I think that that's a really great thing for a young player to see and to appreciate. Of course, that Emma and I are all up on the Weissblat family. He is one of 4 brothers and a sister. And, he talked about hard work. He talks about his game as a very physical game. We saw him on day 1 take out a very large defenseman with a hit. Very physical, very hard worker. And so I just had to ask Ozzy, is being one of 4 brothers something that has helped you as a hockey player? And just for fun, this is what he had to say.
Yeah, we'd be in the backyard playing roller hockey and things like that. We're all slashing each other. So it got pretty tough that way, and parents weren't stopping it and all that. So it was a free for all growing up, and my little brother's a really tough hockey player himself, and I think it's just in our blood.
Okay, first of all, shout out to the Weissblat parents. 4 boys that played hockey. Bless your hearts.
Ooh, yeah,
Bless
4
your heart.
boys, period.
I mean, serious. Even if they don't play hockey, 4 boys is a whole thing. But I just thought it was really great. Again, he mentioned his brother. He has a brother that plays hockey as well. So a lot of a competitive edge with him. Again, hard work. Somebody to keep an eye on. That's a name I think that Predators fans need to just be aware of as you look ahead, because this is, again, a young player with a lot of potential. Let's turn the page to who has to be Captain Delightful. I mean, and look, Emma and I are here to talk stats. We're here to analyze games. You're going to get all of that in the season. But can we just talk about the fact that Kallin Lind is nothing if not sheer delight? Every opportunity to talk to him is you walk away feeling happy when you've talked to Kallin Lind.
You can't not smile when you talk to Kallin Lind. It's like he's always smiling. I don't know what he would look like sad. I feel like he'd be like, yeah, I'm really sad. I just feel like he's incapable of.
It would be the worst to see Kallin Lind sad. It would be devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. Yeah. So we talked with him today yesterday after rookie camp, and just asking what are some things that you're working on. And one of the things that he has consistently said since being drafted, I am working on getting bigger and stronger. Kallin Lind is very lean, still plays a physical game, has continued to play a physical game, but he has really been focusing on sizing up. And so I just had to ask him, walk me through what that looks like. This is what Kallin Lind has been doing this offseason. He has been consuming 4,200 calories a day, which I'm here for. But let me tell you how he's doing this. Kallin Lind has been getting up in the offseason at 2 a.m. to eat a meal. And then he'll go back to sleep, and then he gets up and he eats again, and he is working out, and he is at the gym, and he says he is eating basically every hour in the off season. And what I will say is there is a notice, you can tell that Kallin Lind has bulked up a little bit. Of course, I think he wants to continue to get bigger as well. But Kallin Lind, 2 a.m., eating a meal. And he's not emotionally eating, friends. This is with purpose.
I was gonna say, it's not like a midnight snack, it's just this is part of his training regimen. I mean, if that's a goal that you have as an athlete, it's not just about your skills on the ice, on the field, on the court, whatever. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle. And for him, that's something that he needs to be extra dialed in on. So for him, food is like medicine right now.
Yeah.
And he's taking that seriously. So it's good to see.
It is good to see. And again, I really feel like you can see that he is starting to bulk up some. It'll be fun to watch him. Like you mentioned, the rookie showcase, he was spicy last season in the rookie showcase, had a fight, very physical game. So I'm curious to see him as well. When we're looking at these rookie showcase games, Emma, just real quick, what are the things that you can and can't take away from watching a player in this rookie showcase?
I think that, it just like with anything, I would say similar, honestly, to a preseason game. You can't take too much from it. It's not, you can't overreact to anything that happens in these games.
Mm-hmm.
These are kids, on fresh legs. A lot of them haven't really skated a ton in a while, and they're kind of just getting their feet under them. And That's the point of these things, is to kind of
Right.
get their feet wet. So it is, I know it's a game setting, but it is still a development tool. So I would say you can't look at it like a normal game.
Mhm.
It really doesn't matter who wins. It doesn't matter what the final score is. I couldn't tell you who won any of the games at last year's rookie showcase, but I can tell you that that Kallin Lind got in a fight, that Joachim Kemmel's slap shot was amazing.
Yes.
Like, I can tell you all
Right.
kinds of details, and that's the point of these things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think these are glimpse games.
Mhm.
This is not going to tell you this player is 100% going to be a superstar, but you are going to see glimpses of things. You're going to see glimpses of potential. You have to remember that a lot of these players have not played together. And so, you're not talking about lines rolling out with chemistry. You're not talking about defensemen who are used to playing in front of a goaltender and they know tendencies and vice versa. So you have to sort of look for just little glimpses. And I agree with you. Those are perfect examples of things that you can take away from the rookie showcase from year to year. What are things to keep an eye on for these individual players? So it's going to be a lot of fun. There are a lot of players worth watching. I know we focused on just a handful in today's episode, but really there are a lot of players worth watching in this rookie showcase. To throw out times so that today's game is against the Florida Prospects. It is at 2 p.m. These are all at Ford Ice Center, Bellevue. Saturday, the Nashville Prospects play Tampa Bay's Prospects at 5 p.m. Saturday, 5 p.m., Bellevue. Monday at 1 p.m. against Carolina's Prospects. So those are the games. They will be streamed at NashvillePredators.com. Of course, Emma and I will be tweeting out about the games as well and kind of keep you up to date on the glimpses that we happen to see as they play. Before we sign off on this Friday, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and find your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can follow me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this week's episodes of the Locked On Predators podcast. Friends, we're going to be back 5 days a week next week. We are back in season, lots to talk about as rookie camp wraps up and we move right into training camp. So be sure to tune in to the podcast. Again, you can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, and you can continue the conversation after the podcast if you join our Locked On Predators Insider Program. Information is in our description. Hope you all have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.